Hello, everyone. And again, thank you for attending this course today on how to successfully address the PPI requirement in the frame of the investigator-initiated clinical trial 2024 application by the SNSF. My name is Sabine Rittirock. I'm the Communication Strategy and Stakeholder Manager at the Swiss Clinical Trial Organization, and we are partnering here with the SNSF for the organization of this course. Before we dive into the subject, I just wanted to give you some quick informations and reminders kind of about this course webinar. But I've seen that most of you have, I think, have muted their microphone when you are not speaking, just to avoid the background noise. Regarding the camera, feel free to turn it off or on during the presentation. It's really up to you. We have a dedicated question and answer session at the end of every presentation where you can address the question. So that the presenters are not, speakers are not interrupted. For asking your question, you can either write them on the chat or raise your hand and then ask your question. Just a reminder, it was already written on the invitation email, but this course is recorded. So the recording without the question and answer session will be published on our SCTO website after the course, like this week. You will get also an email to inform you once this is available on our website. Yeah, the scope of this course today is really the planning phase of the patient and public involvement when you are applying to this grant. IICT 2024 grant. The audience is clinical research professionals, of course. Just a quick reminder that this is not a course on training on all aspects of implementing PPI in academic clinical research, whereas you will, of course, give insightful information. And it's not a discussion of other section of the IICT code. So this is really can be addressed in a different, differently, not here. Just a short overview of how this is gonna take place today. So first I'm gonna introduce you with general concept of patient and public involvement, and then Sandra Kohlmeier from the University of Basel will give you more information about PPI in this investigator-initiated clinical trial, and as well that about the support you can get from the clinical trial unit. Then we will have a short break of 15 minutes. Then there will be a presentation by Cindy Roth and Marie Méon from the CHUV in Lausanne. They will present more hands-on advice and best practice, so really PPI in practice in clinical trials. And then you will get useful information about this specific grant application and PPI in this specific grant application by the SNSF. So from Larissa Aragon and Caroline Krüger. And we will finish this course by overall question and answer session. So the objectives of today are really to understand the patient and public involvement concept, to be able to translate these PPI principles in your study project that you're planning to do, to be able to create a plan for your PPI, and to recognize really the value of the clinical trial unit as a partner and as support, and of course to apply the PPI requirements. But to start with, what is patient and public involvement? So this is, there is no internationally harmonized definition yet, might come. But we at the SCTO have decided to use a definition from the UK Health Research Authority, so the NHS, by saying that it is research that this is carried out with or by member of the public rather than to, about, or for the public. So really, it is important to make the difference between involvement and participation. So patient involvement, as we define it for PPI, is really patients and members of the public that are actively involved and engaged in clinical research projects as full partners. And I think this term partners is really important here to be highlighted. Whereas participation is really patients and members of the public that take part of the clinical trial or project, usually by providing health data. So mainly patients that are enrolled in the clinical study. So what's the definition of a patient here in this PPI? It is defined by EUPATI, so the European Organization for Patient Education, is actually very broad. It can be the public in general, it can be individual patients, it can be patient organization representatives, caregiver, patient advocates, and or patient experts. I will call them here patient contributors. Try to stick to this while I'm presenting for the minutes that are coming. Why should PPI be integrated into clinical research? First and foremost, that's why clinical research is done, is because today's research is actually tomorrow's medicine or therapy. And patients are directly affected by the outcome of clinical research. Therefore, it's really important to involve them, because they should have an influence on it. So what is can be summarized as nothing about us without us. And that's really what also patient organizations want. It's also can increase patient empowerment, because PPI support the empowerment of patients and addresses the rights to have a voice in the clinical research. It will increase their capacity to act on issues that they themselves find as important or define as important. Integrating PPI in research will also increase the accountability with the potential to democratize the research process, and also increase transparency. As academic clinical research is mainly funded by or financed by governmental and public funds, it can really help to make the funding more transparent. It will increase the relevance in identifying research questions that matter most to the public and the patients. And it can help prioritize the research agenda, of course, if you involve a patient and public. It will definitely improve the recruitment, the retention of your patient participants this time, by connecting them with the appropriate patient community and advice on feasibility of the study process. And again, increase the relation and transparency by disseminating study results to wider public, and also because usually lay summary will be done. With this, the research is more likely to be designed and conducted in a way which is acceptable to the patient, and involving the right people well can help to produce research with which respect the rights, safety, dignity, and well-being of participants. And I think this is really important. Now that you know a little bit what is PPI, why you should have PPI integrated into research or a clinical research or study, how can you find them, your PPI contributors? And there is no one magical recipe so far. We can only give you some recommendations. So first of all, you should align internally in your institution within the research group. A good advice is also to identify and contact the relevant patient organization. For most of the studies, disease, there are patient organizations. Post a call for interest on your website or on social media. You can contact the IICT Switzerland, because they do have a big network of patient representative or PPI contributors. You can contact us via CTO and ask us for support. Here is our email address of PPI. You can use the IICT Connect matchmaking platform. So this is more for Europe. And we also have developed PPI mapping, which map all the initiatives and projects that are ongoing with PPI in Switzerland. And this can give you also hints on and advices on who to contact. To find your PPI contributor, what is important to develop is really information material that will clearly explain your research project in a lay language. Really, this is PPI contributors are from the public, so they are not healthcare professional mainly. So it's important to have this lay language summary. Describe the role that you want them to have. Specify the knowledge, the experience, the skills that your contributors must have or should bring to your study, and provide information about the amount of work time that is required, as well as the remuneration. Then the question is when to involve your PPI contributor, and there is a nice chart for this, but I will not go through it, since Sandra Kohlmeier is going to explain you this in her talk right after me, a little bit more on when to involve patient contributors. So PPI is really one of the SCTO, so our organization, key strategic priority for the current funding period, but also for the next funding period, because it's really important to consider patient and the public as partners in academic clinical trial research. So that's why we've developed some resources. First, you can find on our website a fact sheet where there is a summary of overall concept of PPI, benefit and challenges, how to incorporate in the trial, a little bit of summary of what written of what I've just described. We've also developed a guide for the researcher to address PPI in clinical trials. Another important resource that has been developed and that is available freely on our website is the SCTO remuneration policy for PPI activities, because it's really important to be transparent and fair to your PPI contributors when it comes to also remuneration, reimbursement, compensation. The model that we use for this is a blended model that is really that has been also developed by IICT, where it's really based on the level of involvement and the skills and competencies that are needed for your from your patients. So here it can start with information up to leadership, as well as the skills. So it can be very low skills to very high with some medical expertise. So this will also be the remuneration will be higher for this type of skills and competencies. So we have also developed PPI templates to help you implementing PPI, where it contains most of these points that I've already mentioned. And also just to show you this PPI mapping with all the projects and initiatives that are going on in Switzerland. And currently we have 61 projects and initiatives. This mapping is updated every now and then with the new initiatives or project that we are aware of. And so it can be also a useful resource for you. With this, I would like to conclude about this short introduction. I think really come and visit our website with patient and public involvement page where you have all these resources available. And with this, and without any further comments, I will leave the stage to Sandra. Yep.
Thank you very much, Sabine. So I will
stop. Yeah.
I will share my presentation. I hope you can see it. Maybe a quick is okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Good. So hello, everybody from my side as well. My name is Sandra Kohlmeier, and I'm working at the Department of Clinical Research, and there I have different hats on. One is I'm working in the training and education a lot, and also I'm the project lead for PPI at the Department of Clinical Research. Okay, so and I will go with you now through the following topics. I will show you a little bit what are the process and timelines at the current IICT call this year. And then we go through the requirements that you have. Everything is, of course, regarding PPI. And in the end, we will also have a quick look how your CTU can support you with this topic. But before I will start with my presentation, I would like to know from you here in the call in this webinar whether you already have some experience with the SNSF IICT call. So maybe you just write in the chat yes or no. Yes for I have experience and no I have none. Or you can also use the reaction tool in if you know how to use it. It should be here in your sidebar. Okay. From the feedbacks, it seems that there are a lot of people who have. Yeah, okay, kind of, yeah. Okay, it's mixed, but there are a lot of people as well who have no experience at all. Some have already, so it's quite interesting. So the timelines and the process. Regarding the timelines, it seems it's the same, nearly the same as last year. So it's always end of May. This year is the 27th. Last year it was the 26th of May, where you have to submit. That's the first part you have to submit is the letter of intent. Together with this letter of intent, you also submit your PPI preparatory grant if you want one. I will come back to that point later. And then in November, you submit the final proposal. Okay, these are the raw timelines. What is important that all these submissions you can only do if your project actually fits the call. And what are the criteria for this fitting of the call? So your trial, first of all, it has to address an unmet medical or social need, and the patients, they have to be in the center. That it has to be very important for the patients, and it has to be outside the industry focus. And of course, it has to be, since the call is called IICT call, it has to be a randomized controlled clinical trial only. And these are the trials that fall under Human Research Act ClinO or ClinO MD for medical devices. And important, if you are not sure whether it fits or not, please go on the IICT call checklist, and there you can easily find out whether it fits or not. It's also important, you have to submit until 5 in the evening, Swiss local time. And if you don't have a MySNF account, please make sure that you have this account started or registered before. It might need 1 week so that you have an account. It will be open to submission from mid-April 2024. It's the 5th time that for the SNF IICT call that PPI has to be addressed. So it has to be addressed in the so-called patient engagement plan, it's called in this call. And this plan can be found in the letter of intent, but also later in the proposal. And important for you to know, it's not only that you have to address it, it will also be evaluated. So your proposal will be evaluated by the SNSF, by members of the public, and they have they have a real voice. So here you can see the composition of the IICT panel. And for the proposal evaluation, and you can see clinicians, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 4 PPIs and 3 statistics people. And everyone has an equal voice. So here with this, you can see that it's very important and it will be taken into account for your evaluation. Here, a quick overview about the timeline so that you can maybe have it a little bit more in your mind with a visual view. So here, as I said, 27th of May is your first deadline. There is for the letter of intent and preparatory grant. I will come back to that. Important to know is that full proposal is 1st of November, and for the preparatory grant, you will get money only in the preparatory phase of your project, and you will get money 1st of May until you can use that money 1st of July until end of October. Yeah, so 4 months max. So what is the PPI preparatory grant? It's the first time that the SNF is giving such a grant to the researchers, and it is very important that you use it for the right things. So it is actually for the development of the application and for the planning of your PPI activities in the planning phase of your research project. You can get up to 5,000 francs in this preparatory grant, and what you have to do is you just mention all your PPI activities that you want to do in the planning phase in this so-called patient engagement plan in the letter of intent. And this you can also then use for the preparatory grant. As I already said, it is welcome from the SNSF that you have an agreement with your PPI contributors. The SCTO has templates, but also the SNSF has a template for the letter of commitment for patient representatives. The final financial report has to be submitted at the end of the funding period, and this will then be approved by the SNSF. But this is the only reporting that you need for this grant. And maybe another question to keep you awake. When do you think PPI activities should be integrated in a clinical research project? What do you think? When? You can also write in the chat again if you want. Would be great. So we have an interaction and it gets a little bit more lively. I would like to know from you, when do you think you should integrate PPI activities, or when would it make sense for you? Once you develop a proposal idea, yeah, great. I guess preferably right from the beginning of the project. Great, yeah. Many options from initiation, protocol to analysis, yeah, all steps of the research project when your prototype is ready. Hey, great answers, thanks a lot. So you are really going in the right direction. That's great to see, because this is really key that, first of all, sometimes we get question, yeah, but in our project, I think PPI, we don't need it. But we really can force this, saying that it's actually possible, and at least from our point of view, needed for each project and during the entire research project. So, and the earlier You start with it, so in the beginning and in the planning phase, as you have mentioned it in the chat, you get the best benefit out of it for your research project. And what kind of activities really depend on your research project. So there is no step by step. It's very individual, and it really depends on your research project, what kind of activities make most sense. Okay, just one little thing also to remember if we are in the SNSF IICT call regarding PPI and this kind of topic, it's also highly recommended from the SNSF to think about considering patient-reported outcome measures, so PROMs. For example, they give this example of the internationally recognized PROMs by the International Consortium of Health and Outcome Measures. If you don't know it, you can, of course, go on this link and check whether there might be an PROM which is maybe interesting for you and your research project as well, maybe as an outcome. Coming to the requirements. So as I said, there are two major deadlines. First deadline is the 27th of May, where you have to submit latest the letter of intent and the preparatory grant in your MySNF account. And we are going now to the requirements for this part of your submission. This is how the patient engagement plan looks like in the application. And you have to state what kind of activities do you plan in your planning phase. So before you submit the proposal to the SNSF, and please write down each activity separately, also with a little bit of details, who you want to include, what kind of PPI contributors, how many, what kind of method you want to use. And then state what concrete task and expectations you have, and also note down what kind of benefits you think these PPI activities will have for your project. And of course, that's why you can also use it then for the preparatory grant, because you also have to state what kind of budget do you need. And as I said, max is 5,000 for the preparatory grant. If you are not sure how to compensate, I think there are some examples later, but as mentioned before, there is this compensation policy of the SCTO where you might find some useful hints. And as I said, yeah, what kind of activities depend on the project, of course, which activities make sense. In the preparatory phase, it might be that there are some questions regarding the identification of the research question, for example, where the PPI contributors can be involved, and also depending on the research project, of course, it can be that the study design or the endpoints, or also something regarding the recruitment strategy or visiting planning and so on, can be PPI activities that might be very important actually for your project and also for the feasibility of your project in the end. I think there are also some more examples in the next talk. Okay, this is about the requirements regarding the letter of intent and the preparatory grant, so 27th of May. And then for the proposal part, where it's the deadline 1st of November, there you have two parts in this proposal. You have the part A and the part B. In the part A, you write down all the activities that you have done already before the proposal submission. So actually everything that you have maybe financed with the preparatory grant, all these activities you write down. And in the part B, you describe all the activities, PPI activities that are planned during and after your trial conduct. So as we have seen before, this would be part A. You just describe what you have done already. And this is actually the same as for the letter of intent. And the only thing which is additional is you have to describe how these PPI activities that you have done have actually really influenced your study. And this should be described. What kind of benefits have been generated by this involvement? So the effect of the PPI activities that you have done in the planning phase. And then in the part B, you describe all the activities that you are planning during and after the trial conduct. And this is in a little bit in different topics. And there you have the management, for example, the data analysis, the dissemination, and the evaluation. And there you describe your activities. It's actually the same principle as for the letter of intent. Important if you want to, and you have to submit the budget for the PPI also in a proposal. And this is add funding on my SNF under cost category, patient and public involvement. Yes, and if you now ask, okay, in part B, what can be some examples for PPI activities during and after the trial? Here you, of course, you have some examples. It's just some examples, nothing more. There are so many other possible PPI activities that you can think of. But for example, in the management and study process, you can think about maybe improving the informed consent. You can maybe find out that the recruitment is not going well. You might, together with the PPI contributors, find out ways to increase this, and maybe one of it might be to improve the informed consent process. You might think of having PPI contributors in an advisory board of the study. And for the data analysis, one example might be that they are member of the data safety monitoring board and maybe give the view of the patients to this to the safety signs that are coming in the trial. Also for the evaluation and dissemination, there are a lot of activities that can be planned and will bring very helpful and additional insights from the patients for your trial. For example, the communication of your study results in a lay summary, for example, that is really understandable for the public. So now we are coming to how you can get support from your CTU. So the first thing is that the SNSF really highly recommends that you use your local CTU for support, and really contact your local CTU as early as possible. You might imagine your project is not the only one. And if you come last minute, it is kind of tough for the CTU members to really get everything in the last minute done. So the earlier you come, the better for everybody. And for the letter of support, this is something you also need for submission. And there you describe all the involvements of the CTU in the different aspects. And this has to be submitted with the letter of intent, but also with the full proposal. You might now ask, okay, but where is my local CTU? So you have 7 CTU members in the network, and for sure one of them will be responsible for you, and you can contact all of them and they are happy to help you. I will just bring the DKF Basel now as one example on the kind of support you might expect. So we have some consulting, of course. So all questions around PPI, you can come to us and we can together find out which activities might be with most benefit for your project, whom you should involve as PPI contributors, how can you maybe overcome some challenges. But we also support on actually getting PPI contributors, and also, of course, in the matter of the SNF IICT call for the preparation. in the letter of intent or proposal, we can have a look and review the PPI plan, for example, or the cost estimation. We can also find out together. And also for the implementation of the activities, we can give on hands, for example, we can be a co-moderation for your PPI activity and bring some independent voice in your PPI activity. Yeah, and we also have a network and active exchange with others. For example, the USB Patient Advisory Board and also the SCTO PPI working group. We have also on the website, you can have more information regarding PPI if you have questions. And maybe if you have now somebody where you think, yeah, this is a great patient, I would like to work with this person, but this person doesn't know a lot about research, and it would be perfect if this person could be a PPI expert, so knowing not only about the disease but also about research. And there I can tell you that there is the Swiss patient expert training. You might think of for one of your patients, maybe it's from IICT Switzerland, and it will start mid of April. If you are interested, just go on the link. I think the presentations will be shared afterwards, but maybe Sabine can talk to this later. Yeah, and there's also the possibility to have some information sheet regarding the development of the research question. And we also have to give you a little bit more overview regarding the timing and the key points that you have to think about regarding the SNF IICT call. There we have the DKF key points plan, we call it. And there you have additional information about each step, and you can go and click on it and you will find out what you have to do at each step. And for the DKF, please come early, DKF Basel contact formula, and we will help you as soon as we can. Normally it's not more than two working days. Yeah, and with this, I'm already at the end. And if you have questions, please feel free and ask whatever is in your mind. I hope it was clear, and if you have some questions. Does the PPI grant cover setting up a more sustainable network of patient partners? Yeah, why not? I mean, it can be a very important activity in the planning phase of your trial, that you want to establish a network of patients for your trial. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
And as we all are a little bit, yeah, the whole topic is still new. And of course, you need first to establish a good relationship, and as you said, sustainable relationship to patient partners. And that's why I think it's absolutely valid. Yeah. I don't know whether the others see it in a different way. Then they can.
I mean, if I may say something
yeah,
here from the
SNSF,
SNF perspective, this PPI preparatory grant is really more thought for compensating the activities that you do with your patient experts. So for example, compensating travel costs, compensating the time the PPI spends on developing the proposal with you, for example. I'm not sure whether you can cover really a sustained PPI network with the 5,000 francs you get from the PPI preparatory grant, especially if you also have to cover costs for meetings, for example, that you do with the PPIs.
Yeah, but maybe as a starting point, and as if I understood correctly, please correct me if not. With this grant, you can not only give a budget for the PPI contributors, of course, their costs and their time and everything, but also for the planning that you need. So your time for the planning of the activities in the preparatory phase of your trial?
No, this is not really correct. So this grant
think
is
I have
not
read that.
really thought to compensate working time of or employment of persons that are involved in the trial design other than really the PPI members.
Okay, then this is something new, because I was told that this is also possible, the time that you need for the planning of these activities, that you can also partly put this on the budget as well. But okay, that's a new learning. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there are no other, is there also PPI grant for the SNF project funding?
No, this does not exist yet.
Yeah.
So the PPI preparatory grant is currently only linked to IICT.
Okay. Good. With this, I'm finished, and just to say that I hope that the PPI will go beyond the IICT call and get the new normal in the research.
Can you see the screen? Is it okay?
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yes.
Yes. So good afternoon, everybody. It's our pleasure to present you the PPI in practice part. So this presentation will be held by Marie Méon and myself, and we will try to really put in parallel the theory with very practical cases and examples that are conducted within Marie's project. So maybe just to introduce ourselves. So I'm Cindy Roth. I'm the manager of the research consent unit of the Clinical Research Center at the CHUV, and we are giving advices to investigators to help them set up PPI initiatives for the project. Marie, maybe I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, shortly, I'm senior house staff physician in Lausanne University Hospital in internal medicine, and I'm also directing a large national research program, which include patient and public involvement and engagement. So yes, the idea here is to just take the opportunity to speak about the project, which is including patient and public involvement. And just to make it clear, we are speaking about a national data stream supported by Swiss Personalized Health Network. And the question in there was to monitor and study the quality of care. So if you want to see more about the project, here are the link, but it's not the topic of the presentation of today. But maybe just here, you have the web page of the project. On one thing you can think about it in for the future, but maybe not for the preparation of the project. But if you have patient partner, it's quite positive, and also for them to be mentioned on the project somewhere. On here is how we did on the web page. We mentioned the patient who agreed to be on the website.
So if we come back to the figure you've already seen before, if we talk about the preparatory phase, as it was presented to you, you can PPI contributors can help you to identify research questions. For example, to help you identify relevant research questions or medical needs, help you prioritize research question, establish contact with target patients or other partners they know, or other examples. They can also help you to really design your protocol, giving you ideas about how what kind of methodology you should use, what kind of outcomes you should think about, and this could really help you to settle or fix your protocol according to patient needs and concerns. So how can they concretely be involved at this step? At this step, you can really think about individual interviews to get their opinion, You can include them in the revision of the lay summary of your study to make it more comprehensive and understandable for the public at large. They can help you review the study documents, again, to make them more understandable. They can be involved in surveys, especially if you want to include large numbers of people and get their opinion considering different points you want to clarify regarding your protocol. And you can also imagine to organize focus groups. But these are only a few examples. As mentioned before, you can imagine a lot of different things. So be creative, let's say, for this step.
So my task here is just to make some illustration of what Cindy is presenting. At the beginning of the Lucid project, we were exactly as you were. We had a pre-proposal on. We had also a budget to create some PPI material. On what we decided to do is to do a consultation with PPI expert. Using what was existing mostly in Geneva at that moment. And they advised us to have a small panel of patient contributors. For this project, we mainly needed patients who had experience about quality of care. So the question was quite wide. We took male and female. We tried to have different age. It's sometimes an ideal because most patients who have time are female, and sometimes they are also a bit elderly. So we were criticized because we had mostly female of more than 50, but ideally you should have male, female, different age or different speaking region if it's possible. French and German for Switzerland is it's a minimum. So what they did for us, they, within a discussion, confirmed that our research question was relevant. And then we wrote a lay summary. On here, just it's maybe anecdotal, but we were really proud of our lay summary that we were writing together with my colleagues. And then we discussed with patient partner, and she told us, yeah, good, but it's absolutely not focused on what patient could understand. It was really high-level lay summary. There is some guidelines regarding lay summary on the age. It should be around, reading age should be around 12 or 14 at most. So this is something I learned. Really, we are sometimes not good at writing lay summary, and it is something we shall do in collaboration with patients who will better know what they want to read than ourselves. We also discuss about patient co-creating with us a question regarding experience of hospitalization, and this is something we can do, and we did using interviews. And finally, we wrote in the proposal that we will include patient partner as board members. And also we had also the idea to create a panel of patient partner in the future. This is what you can see if you want to read the executive summary. This is a scientific one. And then you have also the lay summary that we have created, one in German, one in French. And here you have the link for the good lay summary guidelines that could be really useful if you want to dig a bit more in detail about this topic. This is maybe just an example. Was his reading age 14? And it's really short sentences, very easy words. We were speaking of concept, low value care. This is something that patients do not know about. So we defined it, and we take a lot of example in the summary. So this is something maybe you can just have a look if you are interested to have some practical example. This is something just maybe this is not about our project, but I found it online and I found quite interesting also. when we first meet with the patient partners and we want to speak about our project, we all, I think all of you who are here are researchers and we know what is research, but maybe we shall start to discuss with the patient whether they are trained or not. And if they are not trained, we shall really ask what is research and explain what is what do we expect for the participation as patient partner. On here, you have this link that could be helpful if you need to have some teaching about how to contact and explain what is research to a patient who is not trained. And this was another also document that I found from the NHS that I found quite useful, just to think about the question we could ask when you have find 2 or 3 patients and you want to have a feedback about your project. You could ask such questions. This was about diabetes, but it could be quite easy to just translate to another kind of project. And it's do you think patients perceive this to be a problem regarding the research question, etc., etc. Those slide will be at your intention at the end, and you have the link also if you want to have again the questions that could help you in the discussion to take advantage of this PPI group or patients that you will recruit.
So coming to the step during the trial, PPI contributors can help you to manage really your study. It means that they can provide advices during the whole study. They can help you during the recruitment. They can help you to develop the documents for the study. For example, information and consent documents to make them clear enough for the participants. And coming at the end of the study, they can help you to discuss the data that come out of the analysis and check whether they interpret those results in the same way as you do. And maybe they can also help you, for example, to identify new ideas for future projects in the future. Yeah. So how can they get involved? They can, as I told you, review documents dedicated to the future participants. They can become a member of an advisory board, including patients, or as you will see later, they can really be part of a PPI panel member. They can support communication with the study participants to make things clearer, maybe for them, and help you maybe also recruit those participants. And they can provide inputs on data analysis.
Okay, so here from what you heard from Cindy, this is what we can write in the proposal. This is what we did in Lucid, in what kind of how can the patient and public help in the management of the study. Here we wrote in the proposal that we will build a patient-public research panel. And this is what we did. So here you see that we had a panel of 8 members, 4 women, 4 men, 3 French speakers, 5 German speakers. We had some selection criteria, and I think it's important for the proposal just to make sure that you are quite clear what kind of patient do you want. It depends on the research topic. If you are speaking of inflammatory disease or if you are speaking of cardiovascular disease, it won't be the same patient. For our research project, it was at least 1 chronic disease or the experience of a hospitalization in medical acute care. This was expressively designed not to have patients with experience, for example, of just 1 surgical hospitalization. We wanted to have polymorbid patients. And then how we recruit it, as it was discussed at the beginning, we had quite a lot of success recruiting patients from association like Fédération Romande des Consommateurs, which are mostly public or not patient. And otherwise it was, how do you say, talking to colleagues and and also having our own patient. Sometimes this is a way you can find new patient. Sometimes also the trained patient partner know about colleagues. That was how we had most of the trained patients that discussed one to another, and they come back to me saying, this one could be available for the project. And maybe this is something you will hear about when you will do the literature. This is something we discuss in the group for this teaching. The topic is PPI-E, so patient and public involvement, but more and more we are speaking about patient involvement and engagement, because this involvement could be seen a bit as passive sometimes. On the involvement part, it's described here in this article from Nature, and it's really the idea to disseminate the information on outcome from research to patient and public. So it's really a more active part in the project.
Then coming at the step after the trial, PPI contributor can help you communicate the study results to the public and make those results clear, and help you, the public, to really understand what was done and what are those results. They can also support for the communication to a wider audience, for example, in symposium, or writing, for example, publications, or any kind of communication. A very important step that has not to be forgotten is the evaluation step. As PPI is really starting to be settled in Switzerland, I think it's really important to evaluate what it brings, what are the positive feedbacks that we have, and the negative ones also, in order to improve. So it's important that PPI contributors really give advices and help us to really improve in those initiatives for the future. So how can they get involved? They can help you summarize study results in lay language, again, support study results communication to the public, participate in article writing, and give feedbacks about PPI actions and impacts.
Thank you, Cindy. I think we are not so far in the Lucid project, so I don't have an example of results of research that we are at the stage of disseminating. However, when you get the funding, there are a lot of the time you have internal publication, or even sometimes external publication for the public. On here, you can already collaborate with the patient partner you have on board to design the internal collaboration. Maybe less because it's for the colleagues, but colleagues are also public, so you can just note all this dissemination of the result of the study as public dissemination of at least the research that you will conduct. And then next slide, you can also take advantage of what the media will say of your project. On here, sometimes it's also good to have a patient partner on board to maybe inform how we should discuss with the journalist, or make sure that the topic is well taken for the patient and the public who will read this media coverage. And what is interesting, next slide, there are a lot of articles that allow public to make comments on. This is something you can also track. Just to here we had 90 comments on this article. It was interesting to see if it was positive, negative, and this is something we can also document for PPI for the whole project. Next, so here for this topic, for example, these are the words who were mostly represented in the public comments. So for us, it was interesting to see that the public was really willing that we speak about medication, and also cost. that was informative for the project. Then Cindy talked about the other topic, which is important, is to evaluate the PPI during the funding or during the project. So you shall also describe in the proposal how you will evaluate the PPI in the project, how it went, whether it was had a good collaboration with the patient, but also what kind of impact it had on the research. And we co-constructed an evaluation survey, mostly about satisfaction, were the patient partner happy or satisfied, or did they understand what we discussed during an interview, during a focus group, during a panel. It was really important for us to make sure that we did not miss or over speak of topics that patient maybe did not understand.
Coming back to this PPI reporting, as we said, PPI activities should be evaluated in a structured but also regular manner. So it would be good not only to do it at the end of the project, but also all along the project in order to improve with the ongoing of the project. I think this is what you do, Marie, for each task PPI have. PPI reporting is important to communicate the impact, as Marie just told you, of PPI in research, but also identify best practices, because here in Switzerland, actually, we are constructing those kind of PPI initiatives, but we don't have really best practices that are settled. So it will help really future investigators and orientate them. And those reporting is also are also important to improve the quality and consistency of PPI actions. You can find templates for this feedback forms on the SCTO website. And you can also find an article about the first international guidance for reporting PPI in health and social research called GRIP. You have the link within the slides. Now that you have seen all these examples, you may wonder, okay, who should I involve, how and when? So this has really to be thought about at the beginning of your project. The level of engagement, the profile, the expertise, and the numbers of PPI contributors change depending on your project and the different PPI activities you plan. You can see here on the table the different steps of your study, from the identification of research questions up to the PPI evaluation, and the different levels of engagement of your PPI contributors, starting from information. So the PPI contributor provide information, advices. They give advice on specific questions related to your project. They contribute at the decision-making level, or finally, they lead specific parts of your project. So you can really see that the level of engagement is really increasing all along those different steps. So you have to define at the beginning in which step you want to involve your contributor and what kind of level of engagement you want them to have. And those decisions clearly depends on the research team resources, both human and financial, so your budgets and the people you have within your team, your available time. For your IICT call, it will be pretty short for the pre-phase or the first phase of your project. And research team experience. If there are some people within your team that already know PPI and how it works and so on, you may have maybe ideas that are bigger than if the research team experience for PPI is rather low. Regarding the who, if you have multicentric studies, you have to think about including PPI contributors from the different regions that are included in the project, both German and French-speaking people or Italian people also. You really have to include this in your recruitment. involve people with different profiles, expertise, and interests in order to have the diversity. For each PPI contributor, you should precise the role and missions, the necessary expertise, the period of involvement and the frequency of requests, and also the remuneration modalities. And those different details have to be settled to recruit those PPI contributors. So you can find a template for PPI recruitment on the SCTO website. But it has to be formalized afterwards in collaboration agreements that will be settled for each PPI contributor. So those two documents can be found on the SCTO website. Regarding the remuneration, it was already explained to you at the very beginning. It depends on the expertise of the patient, but also the level of engagement. So if you look here, if you have a patient that give advice, step 2, which is here, the level of engagement 2, and this PPI contributor has an intermediate to high level of expertise, then you can imagine a fee of 90 francs per hour. This is an example given by the SCTO. It's just an example. You have to see with your institution what is the recommendation for this remuneration. However, what you have to keep in mind is that they have the right to be remunerated and that the travel costs have to be reimbursed. So those costs have to be included in your budget and you have to think about it from the beginning. So how will your project benefit from PPI? So including PPI in your research team will help you to ensure that patients' interest for the study is there, that aspects that might cause problem in the study design and thus hindering the recruitment are highlighted and corrected. For example, if you think about a methodology for your project that is not feasible for the patients, they can tell you, okay, no, it won't be possible like this. You should change it, and this will help you not only to recruit more people, but certainly also to keep participants within your protocol because it will be feasible. The study protocol is adapted according to PPI contributors' visions, concerns, and needs. You will be sure also that the endpoints and outcomes that matter most to patients will be identified. And finally, that your communication towards the large public will be clear and understandable. So I will finish this presentation with some advices. So as you can imagine, with all these information, PPI takes time. So you really have to anticipate in order to fit in the calendar that you have, which is pretty short, those 4 months that are given to you to write your proposal. So start PPI recruitment early. Do not set unachievable objectives. Plan your actions according to available resources and competencies you have in your research team. Fix it in your budget. Don't hesitate, as it was said before, to implicate other persons or structures that have some kind of experience to help you to set up the PPI actions. At the end, ask a letter to people or structures who offered this support. And last, but really not least, fully involve PPI contributors and take their opinion into account. It's not just a cross to check. They have the rights and they have to be heard, and their opinion have to be really to really appear in your protocol. So work with them entirely. Marie, I don't know if you want to say something to finish.
I think if there is 2-3 minutes left, we are open to questions.
Are there any questions or not?
May I jump in with one very practical question, maybe? Because as a Swiss organization and as based in Switzerland, sometimes perhaps we may not be allowed to pay patients who are recruited from other European organizations, or at least that is something that I have heard as a hurdle to come over. So is this really the case? Are we allowed to pay international patients?
Oh, I'm not aware of this restriction. Maybe anyone else? I'm not aware about this.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't know if Sandra or someone else knows something about this.
No, not that I'm aware of, sorry.
Okay.
I could imagine it's quite maybe more complicated just for the practical reason, but for the moment we are quite free to organize things between you, the researcher, and the patient.
Thank you. And it's an amazing webinar, so thank you. It has been very helpful so far.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie and Cindy, for this very nice presentation. I think we will move on with the next presentation from the SNSF this time, from Caroline Krüger and Larissa Aragon. I think both are online, so I'll let you share your screen, Caroline. Thank you.
Yes. Just wait a second. So now you should see the presentation. Welcome everyone. I'm Caroline Krüger. I'm the responsible for the IICT program here at the SNF since beginning of this year. So I succeeded Deborah Studer, who has left the SNF end of last year. And maybe Larissa, do you want to introduce yourself also quickly now in the beginning?
Sure, thank you, Caroline, and thank you for inviting me. I hope you can hear me well.
It's a bit silent.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so my name is Larissa Aragon. I'm one of the PPI experts, part of the Swiss National Science Foundation evaluation panel, the IICT program. And very happy to be here and very impressed by all the presentations so far. So thank you for having us.
Okay, this is a quick overview on the presentation that Larissa and me will be giving today. We will mainly focus on the PPI initiatives at the SNSF, especially in the IICT program, and how PPI is evaluated in the IICT program, and in the end give some practical recommendations for researchers as well. So the PPI or the IICT call started in 2015 at the SNSF, and patient and public involvement was added as an evaluation criterion for the first time in 2018. Since 2020, patient and public involvement representatives have become an integral part of the IICT evaluation panel. So Larissa also joined the panel in 2020 and was since then involved in the evaluation of IICT grants. Moreover, as you already heard, the PPI preparatory grant has been added in 2022 to mainly reimburse PPI activities and the time that the experts spent in the preparation phase of the proposal. This overview was already kind of explained by Sandra previously. So you heard that the deadline for the letter of intent this year will be 27th of May. We will give you from the SNSF side a feedback on the letter of intent, mainly concerning formal eligibility of the applicants and also of the institutions that are involved in the proposal. During July to the end of August, the PPI preparatory grant is there to foster the interactions with the PPIs in the preparation of the full proposal, which you have to submit by 1st of November. from the 1st of November on, we will starting to do formal checks on the full proposal, the application, and then send out the application for international reviews. So the applications will be reviewed by medical clinical experts as well as statistical experts. And in March next year, so March 2025, you will have the possibility to rebuttal to the external reviews, meaning that you will have 2 weeks time to answer questions and points raised during the external reviews. And this rebuttal together with the external reviews will be taken into account for by the evaluation panel, which meets usually beginning of May. This panel does consist of different experts from medical specialties, but also statistical and, as already said, PPI experts. The decision will be communicated end of June usually, and after this you will start your grant with preparation and recruitment phase, the follow-up of the results, analysis and publication. Concerning lifetime management of the grants, you will have to submit a scientific report every 6 months. So this will be monitored quite closely by us, and financial reports are due every 12 months. You already saw this graph. This changes from year to year depending on how many applications we get. So the panel is never fixed. It's an international evaluation panel, which has can be composed differently with different numbers of people. So for this call, we will have 9 clinical experts. We have 4 PPI experts and 6 statistical experts to evaluate the grants. And all of these experts have an equal voice on all of the grants. And there are 4 main evaluation criteria that are assessed by the expert panel. The first one is originality, clinical relevance, and scientific value of the study. The second one is the suitability of the methodological approach and feasibility of the project. The third one is the documentation of patient and public involvement. And the fourth evaluation criterion is the applicant's scientific track record and the expertise in relation to the project. So there are different steps what PPI experts evaluate in the panel. So before submission, they evaluate what activities have been performed in the preparation of the research proposal, and also they will evaluate the summary for laypersons, whether the summary has been written in a way that also unfamiliar people will understand it and understand the aim and the goal of the study. Moreover, in the preparation of the research proposal, it will be evaluated how the consultation with the PPIs was performed. So were they consulted before the research questions were posed, before endpoints were defined, and how was the recruitment strategy defined? Moreover, the PPI impact or the input of the PPI representatives during the development of the proposed study will be evaluated as well. Have the applicants described how the PPIs influenced the study design? And the last point here to mention is whether there's clear evidence of patient participation beyond just a statement of intent presented in the proposal, which is very important. If we now go to the phase during the clinical trial, there are also these different aspects that will be evaluated by the panel. The first one is responsibilities and rights. So have the patient representatives been assigned a specific role in the study management? Are the expectations clearly defined? Has the research team made arrangements for training and support of the patient representatives? The next point is feasibility. This was already mentioned before, whether the research plan is feasible from a perspective of study participants in terms of the burden, for example. how many questionnaires, tests, treatments, or consultancies, or the time required are planned for the study? Are there sensitive data that need special protection, for example, in this patient group? And have the applicants discussed these issues with the patient representatives? And also very important, has the research team provided sufficient information about the remuneration of the patient representatives in their research plan? And what is the remuneration strategy? The last part of the evaluation focuses on the time after the project has finished. So the dissemination, for example, of study results can be dissemination to patients, where there are progress and the results of the study communicated to the patient, and if so, by what means? Which are the communication channel? What is the timing? Is it active or passive communication? And are the proposed forms of communication appropriate to reach the target population? And the other point is the dissemination outside of the studies. So how does the researchers ensure that all people for whom the results might be relevant can be informed about the results? And are the results made available to and understood by a lay audience? The last point is whether or how do the applicants intend to evaluate PPI and its impact during and after the study has been completed. And with this, I think I will hand over to Larissa.
Yes, thank you so much, Caroline. And I would just like to start with a question that might be familiar in terms of we are focusing on our various day-to-day activities, or you guys as researchers, and sometimes we might miss the important part here, which is what really matters to patients. If we go to the next slide, please. I would like to say first that I feel that almost everything has been said in this online course. So I think a lot of progress has been done since we started in Switzerland with this topic a few years ago. And I'm going to try to bring more like a personal perspective on the evaluation panel, perhaps some ideas on how to increase the success of your research project. So first of all, I would like to say that as researchers, you are, of course, at the forefront of medical innovation. And having this patient-centered approach, as already mentioned by the previous presentations, is not just a requirement, but it's really a gateway to groundbreaking discoveries that resonate with the people that we aim to help. So there is a lot of innovation potential by addressing PPI in your research. And I have seen that, and I just wanted to kind of mention this. And to start with cultural competence in PPI activities. And what do I mean by that? It's about embracing diversity. It's really about trying to find those different various cultural backgrounds that need to be taken into consideration. So I would love to us to think not just about men and women, French, German, Italian, but try to think beyond that, and how do we find and select those patient partners. And I think it goes also beyond finding someone only because he's motivated, but in my experience, analytical skills and communicative competence, it's a great combination for your research project. So I think this combination allows patient experts really to effectively participate in the appraisal and development of research proposal. Then the second one is patient-led research agenda setting. I think it has been mentioned before. So it's really about giving patients a voice, setting their research priorities. They have first-hand experiences and can really uncover areas needing urgent attention. Leading, for example, like patient-led forums or workshops, I can only invite you to there to ask your PPI experts to take on some leadership and even the work packages. You would definitely see a big difference how meetings are run and how fast decisions can be taken. Ongoing training, I think this is very important because we believe that only by finding the right patient partners, we are already done. But this is really about explaining what is value-based healthcare. I think it has been mentioned here in the call. It's really about supporting and engaging with those patient representatives throughout your study, keep them informed, not just at the outset, but as the integral part of the research process. Then you will really get a lot of value from the interactions with them. I think if we move to the next slide, please. And the last 3 points that I wanted to bring here is really to show patients how the involvement shapes your research. So there has to be ideally a feedback mechanism to close the loop to see how they are valued and the interaction. So really acknowledge their contributions. They are just not participants as PPI experts, but I think they are your partners in discovery. Then incorporation of patient stories. I think it's important to integrate real patient experiences into your research. And I've seen in some proposals, there was a very creative way for a lay summary in one of the proposals, where the story of a patient has been told as part of the lay summary. So actually you can always be try to be creative in how to bring PPI into your research priorities and deliverables. So I think data is of course important and compelling, but I think stories can also touch hearts, and they make your research impactful and relatable. And my last point here would be the flexibility in participation. Just please remember to be adaptable and recognize that health conditions might fluctuate and offer flexible participation options when you have identified your patient partners. And I think this is what I would like to give you for today, and I'm very open for questions and comments. Of course, we could spend hours discussing this topic as I'm very about. I hope that you can take some takeaway messages from our presentations today. Thank you very much, and back to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Larissa. So I just have a couple of more slides for you. The next one is on the practical advice from the SNF side to the researchers, which you should generally involve the patient representatives and the relevant patient organization in the development of your proposal from the beginning on. So really start early involving the PPIs, and also plan plan their involvement accordingly for the whole lifetime of your project. Then develop the application together with the patient representatives and integrate their knowledge. For example, in the summary for a layperson, but also if you set up your recruitment plan, for example, or if you define research questions or endpoints of your study. You can also use the supporting material of the SCTO, which has been mentioned before. And this supporting material was based on the checklists that the SNF evaluators are using. So this could give you a very practical and clear hint on how to integrate PPI in your application preparation. And then during the submission, show what the feedback of the patient representative was and how it was incorporated in the study design, because this has an impact, or this shows the impact that the study will have in the real world, let's say, and provide clear evidence that the patient representatives commit to participate this includes their role in the study and also the compensation strategy. Last but not least, as already mentioned before, the SNSF highly recommends considering patient-centered outcome measures. We linked a website here. And also on top of that, the James Lind Alliance brings patients, carers, and clinician groups together to identify evidence uncertainties, which are important to these groups, to define priority setting partnerships. And this results in top 10 lists for different diseases, for example, where these groups jointly agreed on uncertainties, which might be helpful source for you for input in defining your research questions. So this I also warmly recommend to have a look at the website here. And I think that was it from my side. If you have any further questions, feel free to always drop me an email. You have my personal email there. You can also write to iict@snf.ch, which is also looked into by me and my colleagues from the IICT program. And if you have any further questions to me or to Larissa, feel free to ask them now.
Thank you, Caroline and Larissa. I don't know if you have no question, any general question also. So as mentioned, so first of all, I would like to thank the speakers for the great talk today. It was really, really very dense, interesting, and I hope that for the participants it was useful. So just to tell you also that, as mentioned at the beginning, this presentation, I mean, the entire recording will be online sometimes this week, we hope, as well as the slides. I mean, the entire slideshow will be there as well. But in the meantime, if there is any other question that may come afterwards, feel free either to contact the speaker or to us at PPI at SCTO, and we will of course ask or forward the question to whoever it was. So yeah. So again, thank you all for your participation, and I wish you a very nice end of your day and a very nice week. Bye.